When you write, you document your story, you
Yeah.
document your experience, and it is embedded in a wider, broader, bigger story. For example, history, the history of our nation, Jamaica, right? It is to pass on information from one
To
generation
yeah.
to another.
What if writing a book is not just a way to transform the lives of many people, but also a way to create financial freedom and leave a legacy? Wouldn't you want to find out just how to do that? Well, that's what this show is all about.
Hi, I'm Henika Watkins, Porter, speaker, coach, author of Podcast Power, and the host of the Entrepreneurial You podcast, inviting you to listen to the Entrepreneur Secrets podcast, brought to you by C. Ruth Taylor, best-selling indie author and the Caribbean's most trusted voice on entrepreneurship. Tune in for inspiration, information, and innovation to write and win with books. Get ready to dominate entrepreneurship.
It's episode 158 of the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast. This is a show that gives you the roadmap to win with books beyond book sales and dominate entrepreneurship. Coming up in today's show, we're going to continue our series on writing motivation. And today, you're going to be hearing a clip from an interview that I did with Linley Reynolds as we focused on writing to build legacy. And he wrote a book called Mango Time, Pudding, and Something More, Poetic Reflections on Life in Western Jamaica. Linley Reynolds is a banking and finance consultant. He worked with the Bank of Nova Scotia Limited in Jamaica for over 37 years and rose to the level of assistant general manager. And originally from London, born in London, but he grew up in Jamaica. And the things that he was exposed to, the culture, so captured his heart and life that he chronicled his experiences in poetry format. And it's really an inspiring story going from banking to authorship. And his book was, and still is, an Amazon best-selling book, at least for one category, even though it was published from May of this year, May 2024. It's available in 3 different formats. I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes. And I trust that this interview will inspire you to write, because guess what? Your reason for writing and publishing will be the oxygen that keeps your writing goals and visions and dreams breathing. Because the writing journey to success, like many other things, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And that's why one of my online businesses is called Bamboo Sparks, because just like with the Chinese bamboo tree that stays, that story there, it stays on the ground for 5 years, you're watering it and you're not seeing anything, you know, a day will come, like in the 5th year, within 6 weeks, it bursts from the soil and it grows 90 feet tall. And so that's the vision. We want you to keep going, believing, persevering, that all your efforts into marketing and everything, that one day is going to pay off. And so we trust that Linley's story will inspire you to keep going. We're also going to be continuing to share data from the written word media survey. I'm going to give you the latest in terms of my authorpreneurship ventures. Where am I? What's happening with the Rocket Writing Challenge? What else am I up to? And of course, we want to focus also on Ally. Going to give you something either from their podcast, some Ally update that will be of benefit to you. I am the Caribbean ambassador for the Alliance of Independent Authors. So I'm using this podcast to bring awareness to the Caribbean about who Ally is. And yeah, it's going to be another informative and inspiring show. So stay tuned.
Your book is the perfect spark to get the fire going in your personal life, career, business, or ministry. Light that book spark today.
All right. So I'm going to be sharing some of the written word media findings. And immediately after that, you're going to be hearing a part of that interview with Linley Reynolds, best-selling author of Mango Time Pudding and Something More. Then I'll come back with my authorpreneurship ventures. On our last episode, we talked about motivation and income, and we saw that those authors who had income as part of their motivation for writing, that they tend to earn more. Ooh. And since this is an authorpreneurship podcast, we focus on the money as well, because we want you to earn more with books and not just from selling books. That's the overall concept. We want you to be able to earn sustainable income. Hence, the third point there, in terms of the subtitle for the book Authorpreneur series, is about generating lasting income. And this show is going to help you to do that. So every year, Written Word Media asks independent authors or indie authors about their experiences with writing, publishing, and marketing. This year's survey had over 1,500 respondents. I was one of those respondents. And it brings the biggest insights yet into what self-published authors are doing and what's working for them. So whether you are just getting started on your first book or you are a seasoned veteran indie author, the data that Written Word Media provides will help you to understand the trends shaping the independent publishing industry in 2024. And from the results, I am going to share a little bit about how authors are publishing in 2024. And in upcoming episodes, I'll continue to just refer to this information and provide the data. So, how are authors publishing in 2024? The indie author community continues to thrive, with 76.2% of the respondents identifying as self-published, while 16% of the respondents describe themselves as hybrid authors, meaning they dabble in both self-publishing and traditional routes. Only 7.8% of the authors remained fully in the traditionally published camp. So their analysis is that indie publishing has cemented itself as a dominant force. Self-publishing is no longer a backup plan. It's a viable path to success. With so many tools and services available, authors are taking control of their careers and embracing the flexibility and self-publishing offers. So it means if you are part of this, you don't need to feel second class. You are actually part of a growing industry. And many independent authors do this because they want to maintain creative control, diversify their revenue streams, and self-publishing offers a certain level of freedom that traditional publishing doesn't, although, because it's traditional publishing and they were the gatekeeper for years, that still has prestige when you get a publishing deal from one of the big five or big four. Okay, and I'm going to share one more of the findings in terms of what genres are indie authors writing. No surprises here. Romance continues to dominate, with 22.7% of the authors claiming it as their primary genre. And that is why last month we focused on that. in the month of October when we resumed the podcast. Fantasy comes in second at 12.8%, followed by science fiction at 7.5%, and thriller close behind at 7.3%. In the higher income brackets, over $2,501 US per month, certain genres such as cozy mystery, paranormal romance, and romance are prominent. These genres seem to provide more earning potential, especially in the 10,000 to 20,000 and more than 20,000 income ranges. And so if you're thinking of a genre that already has a market and you want to tap into that, it has ready readers, then if these genres are your cup of tea, then go right ahead and invest in that. So I'm going to stop there for today. And Mr. Linley Reynolds, the name of your book is intriguing. I don't know how you move from banking to writing poetry. This don't
Very
make no sense. Mango time, pudding,
Amazing.
and something more. Poetic Reflections on Life in Western Jamaica. Tell us about this book and why did you write this intriguing, interesting book? Take it away, Linley.
Thanks, Ruth. You know, a number of persons ask the question, banking to author. What a lot of persons do not know is that in banking, you have to do, at a certain level, you do a lot of writing. And I surely did that. Yeah. So writing was something that I grew accustomed to over those many years in banking. And me translating it or taking it out of banking and using it to author this book, was almost a seamless transition, if you ask me. So, Chef Ricardo, I heard you saying that the book you wrote is a tribute to your grandmom. My book is a tribute to my mom. My mom passed on the 17th of January 2023, 15 months now, thereabout. And on her death, I started to reflect on life, started to reflect on mom, started to reflect on our growing up. And during that period, I started to capture my thoughts on paper. And I wrote a poem, and everybody in my family liked it. And then one poem led to another and another. A sister of mine said, well, Linley, if you can write 30 poems, we can publish. She did not know that that too was a motivation for me. So I continued to write. And within 6 months, or less than 6 months after my mom's passing, we had 54 pieces. And consequently, we have mango time, pudding, and something more. I hear Chef Ricardo speaking, and yourself, Ruth, and you saying that you were you were ashamed to tell people about the outside toilet. Listen, I don't think any of us would have escaped that experience, and I'm sure I'm speaking for AJ as well.
Oh, yes.
You know? So it is part of who we are.
That's right.
It is what has made us.
Yeah.
Even the kitchen that was outside and apart from the house. Yeah. Even the wood fire, because I remember the wood fire. Again, this is my grandmother, for example, doing or making pudding, corn pudding, potato pudding. We said hella top, hella bottom.
Yes, hallelujah in the middle.
Hallelujah in the middle. So my book speaks about pudding. My book speaks about mango time. My book speaks about growing up in the country, riding the donkey, The donkey kick you off, and guess what? Them say, just give him some sugar and water, man. He'll be fine. you know. So, it captures those nuggets, in life that nowadays a lot of our children do not experience. And if we don't capture these things, how will they know about how we lived, how we grew up? A lot of us came from poor families, and guess what? We did not even know that we were poor, because within the the board walls of the house, we were happy. Yes, and we had space to run up and down as children. We had space to interact with others, to socialize with family members and friends. We had family members who also were there to mentor us and to encourage and to motivate us. So the book captures all of that in poetic form. And from my perspective, I think it's an excellent read, and I encourage everybody to get a copy, read it, and be transported back into the 60s and 70s, when life was very different, when Christmas time was different, when independence was different, when as children we played marbles, we made gigs, we played gigs. Nowadays, I see some children flying kite, but guess what? Those kite is what we would call in those days ready-made, right? They did not have they do not have the experience of cutting their bamboo strips, getting their English card, getting their kite paper and making the beige or the star kite, and to fly it themselves. It's a different sense of accomplishment when you can take it from beginning through to the end. And it is capturing all of these things, Ruth, and for our youngsters to understand what life was in those days. So I hope I've given a little insight in Mango Time, Pudding, and something more.
Wow.
Well, we want something more. Well done.
All
We
right.
need to
Wow.
read one of those poems first because you've whet our appetite. A friend of mine, my favorite Guyanese author, he says that poetry is storytelling captured in this form.
Yes.
So, and it's all about the story. So, since you've whet our appetite, and there may be others thinking like this, can you read one of the poems for us? Is there a poem in the book called Mango Time?
Yes, there is a
Please.
poem called
Can-
Mango. I was staying away from that one because it was a little lengthy. Yeah.
Okay, well,
I,
read one of them for us.
I will be reading one titled 15 Minutes. And just a little background to 15 Minutes. We lived in Culloden, which is near White House in Westmoreland. And my mom was the principal of the primary school, New Hope Primary School there. And every morning she went to the beach for a quick swim. So the poem is titled 15 Minutes. So let me proceed. 15 minutes swim in the Caribbean Sea was all I needed with my tea. Accompanied by my canine deer, was one of a kind, oh so rare. 15 minutes swim in the Caribbean Sea. That's all I asked, was my plea. White and spotted was his hue. His own objective was the blue. 15 minutes swim in the Caribbean Sea was for two and not for three. The freshness of the water was so calming, causing anticipation, the new day's dawning. 15 minutes swim in the Caribbean Sea. Look beyond. What did I see? A ship sailing on the silvery horizon, a fisherman's boat of little comparison. Either vision of peaceful view reminded me there's work to do. 15 minutes swim in the Caribbean Sea. Not much longer can I stay. Students all are on their way. Restraining my desire, my focus is now on the higher. Parents to meet, students to greet, minds so bright. Help me, Lord, to shed some light. 15 minutes.
Wow.
Wow. Why would you encourage others to write? What does legacy mean to you? Encourage somebody. Why should they write? And what does legacy mean?
Ruth, when you write, you document your story, you
Yes.
document your experience, and it is embedded in a wider, broader, bigger story. For example, history, our history, the history of our nation, Jamaica, right? It is to pass on information from one generation
Yeah.
to another. It replicates what the Bible says in Deuteronomy 6, verse 7, to diligently teach your children, penetrating their hearts with truths. Ruth, we live in an era now where our children are fed with half truths and lies. And we who know the truth, we need to share it with them. So I want to encourage others to write. And what does the term legacy builder mean to me? Legacy, from my perspective, refers to us having something to pass on from one generation, something of value, passing it on from one generation to another. So as we think legacy builder, we think of passing on that valuable thing in a structured manner that it is accessible, that it can be utilized by generations now and generations to come.
Definitely.
That's how I see it.
I love it. I trust that you were inspired by Linley's story and that you're going to write your own legacy book, your own cultural heritage book to help generations to come to know more about you and your country, and that you too will think of a way that you can preserve truth for the next generation and write your story in a manner that helps people to understand more of your culture. All right, let's talk about the latest in terms of my authorpreneurship ventures. Where am I on the journey? I am working on, this should be book number 30. And we're having the Rocket Writing Challenge, which is to write a book during the month of November in 24 hours or 30 days. It's a micro book. Some people call it a bite-sized book. Some people call it, Mike Capuzzi has trademarked this. He calls them Shooks, short, helpful books. We're talking 100 to 150 pages. It can be more, but 10,000 to 30,000 words, right? And for me, that's Ruth-like books, right? Following the book of Ruth in the Bible, that is Lickle Talawa. And that's a saying in Jamaica, that it's small but powerful. So I want to encourage you to write these books to kickstart a new career, to reinvent, to use them as marketing tools, to use the book as a platform, for your mission, a vehicle for your vision, a magnet for your mission, and to create financial freedom with books. And this is a good place to start. And it can also be a legacy book, and books that can help to bring hope, healing, and transformation to the lives of many. And it gives you a quick win, right? A micro book or a bite-sized book is a quick win, and it's more cost-effective to publish these books as independent authors. And so on the challenge, as I told you last week, I completed 2 books that I had started 2 years ago. And drumroll, good news, one of those books, Better Than I Dreamed, which is a study of the book of Ruth. That book is over 26,000 words. It has been edited. And so I got back the feedback from my editor, and it was just so heartwarming. And I'm now responding to the edit. So early next year. At this rate, if I really push it, this book could come out before Christmas, because she didn't do a lot of corrections, which I'm happy for. So it was a fairly clean manuscript, and I will get through the corrections, proofread, I'll begin the cover design, and then I can format for myself and all of that jazz. And I could do a pre-release if I wanted, pre-order. I'm still thinking about how I'm going to approach it. I think I'm going to have the cover done, and before Christmas, I'm going to put the book on pre-order. Yeah. Put the book on pre-order and perhaps release it maybe during the Authorpreneur Summit. It's a possibility. I'm still thinking that through. And then I'm working on the third book during the challenge. And this one is about stories to give hope, untold stories, captivating stories of faith, hope, and transformation. And it's about 14 stories, my own faith and academic journey. And I have 3 more stories to complete, and 2 chapters, I believe, to finish that book. And so I am using the writing challenge to work on this. So last week I did not write as much, but every Thursday we have a writing sprint for at least half an hour. So I use that time. I want to finish this book on the challenge. And that book should be coming out next year, early in the first quarter of next year, all being well. I'm going to be flexible with my timelines. So that's the latest in terms of that. I continue with the Authorpreneur Secrets live broadcast on a Thursday on YouTube. I am still doing the teaching in terms of beyond the book launch, 15 secrets or 15 ways to keep the book alive, to keep the book selling. And I missed last week Thursday, so I'm going to have to double up with tip number 6 and 7 this Thursday. And so you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and see all the stuff that I shared, because after the book launch, for those who do launches, in the Caribbean, a book launch is a big thing. For those who do launches, after the book launch, things kind of slow down and you're wondering, what can I do to keep the book going? And so this series beyond the book launch is really helpful, so that you are not average. I want you to sell more than 1,000 books. And so how do you keep it going? That's important. And that's why that series is important. And again, Authorpreneur Secrets Live is an offshoot of the book Authorpreneur Secrets. And remember, to kickstart your authorpreneurship journey, sign up for the free Rocket Writing Master Class, which will help you to become an author. And then within it, we have teachings how you move from author to authorpreneur, an introduction to authorpreneurship. So I want you to go and check it out. All right. In terms of Ally news and updates, on November 6th, the Ally podcast had a very interesting episode, and that was on ISBNs. And I want to put a link to that in the show notes, because this is very important. So all you needed to know about ISBN, why ISBNs matter. So the Self-Publishing with Ally podcast, Michael Laron, who is the outreach manager, and then the nonfiction advisor, Anna Featherstone, had a fantastic discussion on this subject matter. I learned a thing or two, and so I want you to check that out. So Michael shared practical tips on buying, managing, and using ISBNs across book formats with a focus on how this choice impacts your professionalism, distribution, and control over your work. In fact, Ally also has a blog on ISBNs. All right, so I want you to go and listen to that episode. He answered questions like, if I make a change to my book, do I need to change the ISBN? They looked at prices. They look at certain countries that don't charge for ISBNs. You can get them for free, Canada and France. ISBNs in the US tend to be pretty expensive. In the Caribbean, it's not so bad, especially when you go through CARICOM. And in the first couple of years, 4 years or so, on my publishing journey, I wasn't using CARICOM, and I I recognize if I did use, our ISBN provider through the National Library of Jamaica, in partnership with CARICOM, that I could have saved a lot of money. And so this is something that is important. So go check that out. Why am I sharing about Ally? The Alliance of Independent Authors is a fantastic organization that represents independent authors globally. It stands for Ethics and Excellence in Publishing. And so it's a nonprofit organization that is there to advise and help independent authors to excel. And Ally also advocates for us. And so it's good to be part of a group like this. I'm the Caribbean ambassador. So I have included them in this podcast as part of my role to bring information so that persons understand what Ally is about. And I would love for you to sign up, because the benefit of community, the benefit of having these experts, the benefit of part of being part of an international network. And when you have your questions, you have these experts in the industry who will help you to answer. When independent authors face challenges in various industries, whether that is from Amazon or elsewhere, they can lobby on our behalf and they can represent us and bring change. And so it's all good. I love being a part of the Ally family, and I would encourage you to join them as well. Go to allianceindependentauthors.org for more information. Want to remind you as we go of making many books. There is no end. So go penny to win it and dominate authorpreneurship. This is C. Ruth Taylor saying, ta for now, until next time.